Jamaican veggie loaves. Loaded up with some tasty, wholesome ingredients, this dish is not only delicious, it's also very easy. You can use whatever veggies you have in the fridge to match this one up. I'm going to show you exactly how to make it, so let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to make is the filling. I have some veggies here that were chilling in my fridge for a while. Callaloo is very popular in Veggie Loaf, and most places that sell these only have callaloo loaf. But this recipe is a very nice way to use up any extra veg you might have, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Speaking of callaloo, I have some here and I will still use a bit in this recipe. I'm just going to cut this up. Rough chops are okay. I also have some cabbage. The combination of cabbage and callaloo is very delicious. I'm just going to chop up a bit of this. Veggies cook pretty easy, so I'm trying not to mince anything. Overcooked veg no nice. I also have a little bit of pak choy. This is another common leafy greens I really enjoy. I like a bit of the white stalky parts. It has a crunchy texture that I really like. Sliced carrot. Sliced carrot adds extra flavor and a bit of sweetness. Not too thin though, because I want a little bit of crunch in the final product. I'm using half an onion. It doesn't have to be red onion, it's just the veggies in my fridge that I'm trying to use up. Scotchy. I'm going to slice up half and add to this. You can sometimes tell how spicy a scotchy will be from the smell, and that smells really pungent, so I'm not even going to use all of that half. I want some chopped garlic. I'm going to saute this early on for a depth of flavor. And of course we have some fresh thyme. Only need a very small amount. A bit of sliced scallion. 1 plum tomato. I'm going to give this some large dice. Tomato adds a bit of acidity to the filling, which makes it taste fuller and more dynamic. And that's it. That's all I need for this recipe. This might look like a lot of veg, but this will shrink down as it cooks. I need a frying pan and a bit of oil. Let that get hot. For the best flavor, I'm going to start with the aromatics. I will saute these off first before adding the wetter ingredients. The carrot can go into. I'm just going to saute this until it becomes fragrant and barely just starting to brown. This step takes probably 2 to 3 minutes on high heat. Next, add the tomatoes. The tomato will introduce a bit of water, so it will stop browning. Now we can go in with the greens and cabbage. Everything won't hold, so I will just let this shrink down a bit before adding the rest. 2 to 3 minutes should be good enough for that. I don't want to cook the veggies completely. I want them as close to raw as possible while still having good flavor. We can add the rest of the greens now. Season with salt. This could also use some black pepper. Next, just give this a proper mix or a few tosses to distribute the seasonings evenly. And that's it. Most of the veggies cooked just how I want it. Next, taste to test the flavor. That's perfect. I don't want the veggie filling to have a lot of liquid, so that's why I have this setup. It's just a wire rack over a quarter sheet pan. You could also just use a colander. I'm going to chill this down in the fridge until the dough is ready. Speaking of dough, that's exactly what we will be working on next. I've made this super simple for this recipe, needing only 4 ingredients. Start with 1 cup water. You can sub in milk here for a richer dough, but it's been a while since I've added a video to the vegan playlist. A bit of extra food for the yeast, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1 teaspoon salt. This is not enough salt to kill your yeast. And half a tablespoon instant dry yeast. Next, just give that a little mix. Mixing dissolves all the ingredients and distributes them evenly. It's probably not a big deal because kneading does that too. This is 1 pound of all-purpose flour. I'm only going to add half to the liquid mixture for now. Mixing just half of the flour creates a pre-ferment that improves the flavor and texture of the dough. While this is resting, gluten proteins will develop, so I don't have a ton of kneading to do. I'm just mixing until all the flour is hydrated, then I'm going to cover with a damp towel and let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes at room temperature. You can already see a smoother dough that will carry through to the final product. Add the next half of the flour and mix that in. This dough is a lower hydration than I normally use, and on top of that I am not using any fat like butter or oil. That means I will end up with a product that's still soft but has a bit of chew to it. It's a more dynamic texture than just soft and fluffy. I'm just going to knead this until the flour is hydrated and the dough gets smooth. After all that kneading, I will let this rest for 20 minutes to half an hour at room temperature, or until it's about 70% bigger. You can see now that the dough is nice and soft. I'm going to divide this up to get each individual loaf. For consistency, I like to weigh out each portion by first weighing the entire dough and dividing by however much I want. In this case, I'm going for 6 loaves. Doing this makes sure each portion will end up roughly the same size. Next, let's make some balls. Fold each piece over onto itself, then ball it up. Keep some flour nearby just in case you have any sticking. We have 6 balls, now it's time to roll out each of them. About 1/3 of an inch thickness is good. Rotating the dough after each roll helps to achieve more uniform rounds. Use a bit of flour to help with any sticking. If you try to get each piece of dough to the same thickness, you will end up with the same size, and if you try to get each piece to the same size, you will end up with the same thickness. That's a big benefit of portioning by weight. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, it's the perfect time to drop a like or a comment down below. Finally done with rolling these out, let's grab the veggies and fill these up. I'm using a measuring cup. Again, this is for consistency. I want the same amount of filling in each loaf. I try to avoid the edges as best as possible. Messy edges create a poor seal. This is my favorite tool to seal patties, loaves and everything in between. A link is in the description for this ravioli cutter. Next, simply fold the round in half to cover the filling. Use the ravioli cutter to seal and trim the edges. I'm unfortunately going to end up with a little bit of trimmings, but this is what's going to give me the best, most attractive seal. The shape is more of a tapered rectangle instead of a circle, similar to how you do Jamaican patties. Alright, so we got our 6 evenly sized loaves. These are going on a lined sheet pan. I brushed on a little bit of coconut oil to grease it, just trying to keep it vegan. My sheet pan will only hold 5 comfortably, so I'll have to put the other on another pan. Look at that, a 7th one. I use the trimmings and the rest of the filling to make that, so near zero waste. I'm placing these in the oven at 400 degrees. I'm just going to let these go until they're golden brown. If you're like me and you love golden brown pastries, go ahead and drop a subscribe. Nice. Next, just brush off the excess flour. You could brush this with some coconut oil or butter if you don't mind animal products, but I am keeping this as is. That's perfectly baked and smells great. The dough is nice, but this is so hot I can't get to the filling. That's a very nice balance between filling and crust. Wow, very delicious. Nice and chewy, and the veggies are still crunchy. They have a very fresh, clean taste. You know what else is very delicious? This video right here. Catch you in the next one.